All right. Welcome back, Victoria Z. I know you've had a rough year. I know. I've been seeing the posts. Glad you could join us. I don't know if you know this, though, Victoria. We do have a moderators and admins group for everything in the Archaix universe. And until recently, I didn't even know how large the Archaix footprint was. But I have now been informed. So you might want to join that group. Allie will probably get with you once she sees you here in the chat. And any other moderators or admins for anything Archaix. You'll have to go through Allie or Jasmine to get in that group. Okay. Super hot topic. Somebody said the audio is not good. Is it your audio or is it my audio? Okay, again, what is going on with these audio issues? All right. I'm just gonna reset this real quick. Like I did in a cipher video the other day. I had to just go out and come back in. I'll be right back. Okay. Let's get that audio check done real quick. And we're going to launch straight into the presentation. I will say, saving my announcements for the end of the video. Sound is good. Awesome. I don't know what it is. It's not on my end. Something to do with StreamYard. But that's okay. So you guys know we've done several zodiac videos. We learned a whole lot. You know, we kind of thought a lot of this stuff went back, 5, 6, 7,000, 8,000. Graham Hancock says 12,000 years. You come to find out, no, it's not true. We have done 3 videos now reviewing the academic scholarship, the peer-reviewed material, people who got their PhDs, 40 years of research on the solar zodiac and what they had to say. And it teaches us something very interesting about the year 713 BC, which is the subject of a different video. But I need to show you what we're talking about here. One of the biggest mysteries in archaeology, and has been for a long time. It has been recently deciphered. Share my screen real quick. So this video here, we're going to be addressing something that I haven't seen addressed anywhere else. Where in the hell did Babylonian, which was the first and the oldest based off the Sumerian antecedents, where in the hell did they even get the idea that watching the sky was something detrimental. What I'm saying is that an artifact that we've had in our possession for 140 years, that was ignored for over 125 years. It's just one of the 20,000 tablets that was found in one of the underground libraries in Assyria. But it holds the key not only to understanding Babylonian astronomy, but the very origin of Babylonian astronomy and the lunar calendar, which later became a lunar zodiac, which later became a solar zodiac. The very origin is explained in this tablet. So this is some very compelling material. You've seen pictures of it. It's pretty damn detailed. It's really detailed. Our knowledge of Babylonian astronomy, it derives in large part from two tablets from 687 BC called Mul.APIN. I'm going to show, you're going to see how this is spelled here in a minute. But it's M-U-L period Apin, all capital letters. Though the data on the tablets is from 1280 to 687 BC. The Mul.APIN tablet doesn't look anything like this. Let me find it. I'm going to have to show, it's in another file. The Mul.APIN tablet is like a pillar. It's big, squarish, or rectangular. However, Mul.APIN is on this tablet as well. So the Babylonians made no mention of a zodiac at this time and needed only the lunar calendar. I'm going to repeat that. There's a lot of people that don't want to come to terms with this. But lunar calendars of the ancient world were popular, and there were several different renditions. So they were all 12-house calendars. However, some civilizations realized that adding a 13th lunar mansion every 4 years corrected an intercalary problem. Not all civilizations did it, though. There was never a 13-month calendar anywhere. A 13th moon was inserted every few years to make the calendar balance out with the seasons. So it's also of epic importance to understand these 12-house lunar calendars were not lunar zodiacs. The zodiac concept didn't even come till much later. So this is the research of Rupert Gleadow on the origin of the zodiac. The man spent 40 years on his PhD dissertation giving us the history of the zodiac. Mul.APIN tablets are preserved in the British Museum. This is tablet 86378, the Mul.APIN. There's several pictures of these. Here's a good one. This is a really good one right here. So Mul is a Sumerian determinative and a logogram for all types of visible phenomena in the sky, in the heavens. And now, Mul can describe constellations, parts of constellations, super constellations, single star asterisms, named stars, but also phenomena such as comets, meteors, even on occasion, luminous phenomena in the sky. They're all classified under the word Mul. A full list of zodiacal constellations appears for the first time in Mul.APIN and reads, "The stars who stand in the path of the moon, through whose region the moon during a month passes repeatedly and keeps touching." So here's a close-up of it. This is the tablet that is the subject matter of this video. It's not the Mul.APIN tablets from about 1300 to 687 BC. That tablet is right here. Again, I need to share my screen. Anytime I change files, it makes me share screen all over again. This is tablet 1 of the Mul.APIN. So this tablet literally starts off with Mul.APIN. That's the beginning of the tablet. And then it lists the stars who stand in the path of the moon, through whose region the moon during a month passes repeatedly and keeps touching. For those who want to know, the date of this tablet describes Babylonian astronomy from about 1300 BC to 687 BC. And during this entire period, the Babylonians had an 18-month lunar calendar. So here are the 18 Babylonian constellations of the lunar calendar in the order they appear. The Pleiades, you know them as the Seven Sisters. Hyades, Orion, Perseus, Auriga, Gemini, Praesepe, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, the southern fish, the northern fish, Aries. Now, most of these are very familiar to you. Unfortunately, you have just been given the familiar names. You've been given the familiar concepts. This was also published by Rupert Gleadow in The Origin of the Zodiac. However, we have another list I'm going to show you of their proper Babylonian counterparts, and you're going to see that Aries through Pisces zodiac wasn't really known to the Babylonians, and the Babylonians are the originators of the zodiac. So the calendar of 18 constellations was solely lunar. There was no ram known to the ancient Babylonian astronomy. Aries, the ram, was not known. Aries was something else. So instead of a bull, it had a spear. The constellation was called the spear instead of Taurus, the bull. Virgo wasn't a virgin, but the constellation plant growth. This is from Morris Jastrow, Aspects of Religious Belief and Practice in Babylonian Assyria. Now, Rupert Gleadow, who's citing all these other academics in The Origin of the Zodiac, wrote that the constellation Leo, the lion, wasn't even known to the ancient Babylonians. They called it the Great Dog. The earliest references to the Bull of Heaven, the Great Twins, the Scales, and the Scorpion as constellations in Babylonia are found in the astrolabes about 1100 BC, which also mention many other constellations that are not associated to the modern zodiac. The heliacal rising of the Pleiades, the Seven Sisters, began the Babylonian year. The Seven Sisters associated later very closely in the sky to a constellation called the Plough. This is the subject matter of this video. The Plough is literally called Apin. This is the Plough constellation is Mul.APIN. It is this Plough constellation from which we get the term Mul.APIN for Babylonian astronomy. You have to understand, the whole of Babylonian astronomy and astrology to the Babylonians was all summed up in the term Mul.APIN. Mul.APIN refers to the Plough constellation. This is where things get really interesting. The astronomy was entirely stellar and lunar. It involved records of the risings of stars and the constellations in terms of a year of 12 months, each month 30 days long. During this 12 months were distributed 18 constellations. The Mul.APIN only knows a 360-day year. The 17 and sometimes 18 intercalary signs of the celestial sphere were divided into 12 parts. They had not yet developed a 12 constellation zodiac. This is History of the Zodiac by Robert Powell, page 109. This 687 BC, what you're looking at on the screen right now, this 687 BC date for the Mul.APIN astronomy tablets marks the beginning of a transitional period when Babylonian astronomers had now began formulating a solar calendar based out of the older lunar models. Why? It's not the subject matter of this video, but we know what happened in 713 BC. We know the year changed from 360 days to 365.25. We know Immanuel Velikovsky, who is ignored by Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock and all these others who want to push a younger Dryas cataclysm. They have to ignore everything that Immanuel Velikovsky brought to the table. We already know what happened. All of a sudden, the sun is extremely important after this event. Babylon had no interest in measuring the sun for anything until after 713 BC, and they didn't finish formalizing their astronomy until 687 BC. It's like a 26-year difference. It means 26 years after the event. So I'm going to share on my screen now the constellations as they were known to Babylon before India, before Egypt. Egypt was still practicing the 36 decans. They didn't have anything comparable to a 12 house solar zodiac. Nobody did at this time. Here's the Babylonians were the first, and this is the actual list of constellations in Mul.APIN. I'm going to show it on the screen. It's very intriguing because it shows you just may not be the sign you thought you were. All right, let me get out of here. Share my screen again. Such a pain in the ass having to share my screen each time. There we go. It's about as big as I can get it and keep it on the screen. So, just to let you know and to give you a little preamble here, this is still the introduction. Telling you what the Mul.APIN isn't even a part of my presentation. This is merely an introduction. So, what you know of as Aries to the Babylonians, who are the originator of the lunar and zodiacal astronomy. Aries was the hired man. In some areas like Assyria or Elam, Aries was also the sheep. Taurus was actually called the stars. And it's a reference to anytime in ancient Babylonia, somebody says, oh man, the stars, they went down. Or hey, we need to get ready for our festival. The stars are coming up tomorrow. They're talking about the Pleiades system, the seven sisters, because ancient Babylonian astronomy was stellar based. Only later did it become lunar based, but then something happened where they didn't trust the moon anymore. So they switched over to solar based. Gemini was the true shepherd of Anu. Only later did it become the great twins. And this is because two separate constellations were merged into one in order to fill that house. Remember the problem the Babylonians had. They had 18 constellations spread across a 360-degree celestial sphere band. But those 18 constellations had to be force fit into 12 houses for the mansions of the moon. So this is why this is 12 constellations here. But what you're seeing in the left margin is how they force fit constellations together in order to fit them into the 12 houses that you've become familiar with. So Gemini was the true shepherd of Anu, later to become the great twins. The crab, which is which has basically stayed the same way for thousands of years. It hasn't changed, except for the fact in some cultures it was the turtle. Not much difference between a crab and a turtle. The lion wasn't a lion in ancient Babylon. That's very, very recent. Leo was not recognized. It was the great dog. Is exactly what I showed in my Graham Hancock video. That last Graham Hancock video I did showing he's absolutely wrong, completely wrong on almost everything on Younger Dryas, Atlantis, on the zodiacal dating, because the ancient Egyptians had no lion constellation. To them, it was the sickle, which is very close to a plow. Yeah, the whole argument completely collapses Graham Hancock's whole entire thesis about dating Giza and the Sphinx to 10,500 BC. Because if we use his model, then Taco Bell is also founded in 10,000 BC, and so is every other building in the world that faces due east, exactly where the constellation Leo rises in the spring. It's dumb. It's so dumb. So here is Virgo. Virgo was the furrow. Now, I'm gonna admit that there is a correlate here, and it's sexual. It's totally sexual. The furrow was also used in ancient times as a sexual denoting of the female body part. The man was the plow and the female was the furrow. We see this when Samson confronted the Philistines and told them, I see that you have been plowing with my heifer. He was talking about they had been conspiring and having sex with his girlfriend, Delilah. So the furrow standing for Virgo is a pretty good association. The scales being Libra is ancient. They haven't changed. The scorpion being Scorpio is ancient, but it comes from an older system that the tetramorph was later based on. I've described this many times. The earliest astronomies in the world only regarded the 4 royal stars. Fomalhaut, Regulus, Antares. I can't remember the other one, but there's 4 royal stars, and they form the divine cross of heaven. But they also provide the 4 corners of the divine cosmic pyramid, because the pole star was the apex of that pyramid. So the four royal stars geometrically connected to the pole star made the cosmic pyramid. This is the most ancient astronomical model. These 4 royal stars marked the 4 quadrants of heaven. The four quadrants of heaven was Scorpio was one of them. The scorpion ruled one house. The phoenix ruled one house. The bull of heaven ruled one house. This wasn't Taurus. This was the bull quadrant of heaven, the whole quarter of heaven. And then the man-like creature, the creature with human face, was the other quadrant of heaven. It wasn't an eagle quadrant. It was originally the phoenix quadrant. So that's where Scorpio came from. They took one of the 4 quadrants of heaven. This is also where Taurus came from. They took one of the 4 quadrants of heaven. Also, Aquarius. Aquarius has been hidden. Aquarius is a conceptual connection. We'll get to it in a minute. So the next one is Sagittarius. Sagittarius is actually a minor deity in ancient Babylon called Pabilsag. Then we have the goatfish, Capricorn. Again, we have a sheep and we have a fish. They're 2 separate constellations. What do you do when you have to force fit 18 star patterns into 12 lunar mansions? You put them together. What happened? So what we got was Capricorn. We got a goat and a fish put together, but it's actually 2 separate constellations anciently. Then Aquarius, we get to Aquarius. This one has confused a lot of people, but Aquarius is a new attachment to the concept of the zodiac, because Aquarius was originally the great bird, and in ancient England, it was the phoenix. It was called the Great One. It was called Bennu. It was called the Phoenix. For this presentation, you would do yourself a service and remember this association. The Great One, Bennu, and Phoenix. It's going to become very, very important in this presentation. Remember, the subject matter of this video is about the origin of Babylonian astronomy and astrology, period. Why watch the sky? All right, so the last one is Pisces, the field. The field and the tails of the swallow. These are two separate constellations that were force-fit into the same lunar mansion. When it comes to Aquarius, the association of Aquarius, which is a figure pouring out a vase of water or a bucket of water, the only real association here is the water and the pouring of the water. How does that associate to Bennu? How does that associate to the Phoenix? Well, I'm going to tell you, we already know that Phoenix is interchangeable with Typhon. Typhon was the bringer of the flood waters. So there is an association here. It's very old. All right, so done with that. Let me check my chat, make sure audio's still good. Nobody's complaining. All right. All right. Nelson, not of this world. Hello, Lacey. Otto Chenault. Aaron 1080, Mr. C. Donna Marie Farrell. Yeah, man. Donna Marie, you should have had a wrench a long time ago. Did you tell me no? If you want one, say something so I can. Oh, I can't do it in the studio app anyway. I gotta wait. Yeah, I gotta wait anyway. Hello, Jahara. Nelson Perez, gang's all here. Donna Marie, you want a wrench? Is that a nope? You don't want one, or no? I never offered it. Okay, cool, awesome. Just email me. I can't do it in the studio app. All right. That is almost the end of my intro. Almost. So we'll get back to this. Stop that screen. Go back in here. Share one more time. So we're still talking about, in this intro, we are still talking about this artifact, but it's not the artifact that this video is concerned with. This is just the intro. This is tablet 1 of Mul.APIN. It's basically the source code for Babylonian astronomy and astrology. This is what the scholars default to. This is tablet 1. Mul.APIN is the name of all of Babylonian astronomy to the Babylonians. And it literally means the stars of the plow. The plow constellation among the northern constellations is rather insignificant. It is also known as Triangulum and is tucked between the Pleiades, Andromeda, and Perseus. Let me repeat that, but let me repeat it as what they really are. The Pleiades, Andromeda, and Perseus. And the plow is right there in the middle of them. These are actually the seven, the sacrificial maiden, and the destroyer. That's the actual meanings of these. So the question is, how did the entire science, practices, traditions, the priestly colleges, how did all of Babylonian astronomy and astrology, and by extension, Assyrian and every civilization that came afterward, how did it come to be called after a rather insignificant constellation, Mul.APIN? the plow. What are we missing? So, further complicating the matter is that Mul.APIN knowledge only extends to, at the most, 1300 BC, but that's rounded off. This is Rupert Gladow in The Origin of the Zodiac, page 158. He is basically the expert on these matters. This is the guy that spent 40 years researching the matter, and he's one of the very few who did his PhD dissertation on the origin of the Zodiac. So, prior to Mul.APIN, Babylonia, and by extension the entire world, did not even employ a zodiac of constellations at all. Before 1300 BC, the Babylonians religiously observed and recorded the movements of Venus. This is the heliacal risings and settings of Venus. Babylonian astronomy before 1300 BC is preserved in the Venus Almanac of Ammi-Zadduqa. I think it's Ammi-Zadduqa. This is in the History of the Zodiac by Robert Powell, page 99. Now, historians round off to about 1700 BC, but in Archaix, we already know the system did not develop until after the Phoenix cataclysm of the Ogygian deluge in the year 1687 BC. It's only 13 years after the scholarly approximate. So it was the Ogygian event that made Venus appear to fill the sky as recorded by Marcus Varro and other ancient writers. This is in the research of Emanuel Velikovsky. Venus changed its size, its color, and its motion across the sky, which led Babylonian astronomers to record all its movements afterward in hopes of predicting any future disasters. So the Venus almanacs were the result of a destruction that had not been predicted because they weren't watching Venus. So now they developed their entire astronomy just watching Venus. They didn't care about anything but Venus. They watched Venus like Egypt watched Sirius. And at this time in ancient times, they didn't give a damn about the sun or the moon. During the period of the Venus almanacs, we also have the Babylonian astrolabes that mark the 36 stars connected with the months of the year. That is very similar to the 36 decans of the ancient Egyptian astronomy. Yeah, the pre-Egyptian zodiac was totally different. Well, there wasn't a zodiac, but before the zodiac, the pre-zodiac astronomy of Egypt was based off 36 divisions of the sky called decans for a celestial sphere of 360 degrees, each degree signifying a day of the calendar. Both systems at least 1,000 years older than the development of solar zodiacs. This isn't me telling you this, guys. This is the people who know their shit. This is what they're telling us. These systems were already in place and operable. This was the astronomy of Egypt and of Babylonia, and these were implemented over 1,000 years before solar zodiacs ever appeared. But something happened in the year 1273 BC that made Babylonian astronomers abandon their obsession with Venus. That something was the phoenix, and it appeared out of the northern heavens. It darkened the sun. It blanketed the world in red dust, and earthquakes shook the world. Babylon, like Egypt, realized they could not trust the sun and constructed lunar calendars marking those 18 constellations that served as the path of the moon. Anyone who has read my Chronicon knows 1273 BC was a phoenix year, and it was predicted, and it was destructive. And it perfectly lines up with Babylonian astronomy for when they suddenly made a switch from Venus almanacs to developing a lunar system. Zealously, they resurrected a very ancient astronomer cult the cult of Mul.APIN. For the oldest Babylonian traditions had informed them that long before that they had observed the birth of Venus and employed their Venus almanacs, their predecessors feared the northern heavens in the region of the plow. The region of Mul.APIN had brought a terrible end to their forefathers. A single artifact from the ancient world preserves this story. This is not a theory. I've already showed you that round disc. That round disc is the artifact that shows that the cult of Mul.APIN had previously known that the danger comes from the plow. They previously recorded that the destruction descends out of the north. So we're going to go through what's on that disc, and we're going to show you what the date the scholars gave it. And you, especially my Archaix veterans, you're going to have some aha moments. Let me get rid of this one. So we're all on the same page now. I'm going to show the disc that was discovered. So we're all on the same page. All right. Vinny Matthias, yeah, bring those aha moments. One tux. You already know. You guys already know. Y'all Archaix veterans for real. So, the artifact, Babylonian tablet K8538. As a matter of fact, I'm showing you the tablet, but I need to show you my screen. There is no reason why you shouldn't see what I'm presenting. Some of you are visual like I am. I'm not an audio learner. So let me go ahead and just share, because we're done with the intro. Now you need to see the business. You guys need to see the business. I think that does it right there. So the artifact is Babylonian tablet K8538. This relic preserves precise astronomical data, an eyewitness account of a great destruction from atop a Babylonian tower. The Sumerian astronomer recorded trajectory of a strange object, its motion for 7 days before the destruction, and its daily distance, as well as employing trigonometry. The scholars, I believe that's Joachim Seifert and Frank Lemke, even provide a precise date for the event and show that it began a 300-year-long dark age. That's that disc I showed you with the strange triangles on it. The tablet is masterwork. It is a masterly work, explaining with as little text a maximum amount of impact event features. Now, that's just theory. We'll get to that in a minute. They read the destruction on the disc and imported their own idea as to how that destruction could have happened. So the tablet is a late Babylonian copy of an early Old Sumerian original. And the scholars realized that this tablet had been copied over and over and over and multiple times, and they show the evidence of it. And they show other copies that were variants of the Mul.APIN tradition. So this information was known to ancient Babylonian astronomers, and they kept it in their libraries, but they forgot. Why did they forget? Because something else happened that caused them to create the Venus almanac system. Then something else happened that caused them to only watch the Pleiades. Then something else happened which caused them to abandon the stellar systems and adopt a lunar system. Then all of a sudden, in 713 BC, the moon got caught playing false. We'll get to that in another video on 713 BC. But they couldn't measure by that anymore, and they developed solar zodiacs and solar calendars. So the K8538 tablet had high priority in Babylonian times because it provided the documented evidence that something emerged out of the northern constellation Triangulum, Mul.APIN, the plow, an event that influenced the origin of Babylonian astronomy and with which its religion rested. This is profound. We have scholars telling us an artifact from the 7th century BC literally is telling us the story with the other Mul.APIN tablets that an event from the sky that caused destruction is the origin of Babylonian astronomy and its very religion. And we're going to see that in this presentation because I have a lot to show you that's going to be amazing. For this reason, the K8538 was guarded, copied, and refreshed over more than 1,500 years until the late Babylonian period. The tablet is on display in room 55 of the British Museum in London, where it was ignored for over a century. It was recovered in archaeological excavations at the site of the ancient town of Nineveh. Sir Austin Henry Layard conducted the excavations during the years 1847 to 1852. After discovering the ruins of the royal library of King Ashurbanipal, which was burnt down in 612 BC. This disc was buried in 612 BC and forgotten, absolutely forgotten, for 2,500 years. And then when it was excavated, it was among 20,000 tablets that were sent to the British Museum. And it was lost for 125 years in the archives of the British Museum, to come to us today and be researched recently. All right, so this artifact depicts the cataclysmic event that began the Babylonian astronomy of Mul.APIN. Let us have a peek at the scientific paper. So let's look at it. All right, let's see. All right, let's see. What am I looking for? Oh, let me share this. I'm gonna have to share so many things open. I gotta close that. I gotta close that in order to, there it is, article. All right. Really compelling article here. But I got it open. Now I'll share it. The Sumerian K8538 tablet. So their title is The Great Meteor Impact Devastating Mesopotamia. I'm going to show you scientific material that does away with that theory. But we'll get to that later. Joachim Seifert, Frank Lemke, I don't know how to pronounce it. So we're just going through. It's a long article. It's a long scientific paper, and it's got a lot of boring stuff. So I highlighted the relevant material. So the tablet is a late Babylonian copy of an early Old Sumerian original. Written cuneiform signs of two zodiacal constellations, Orion and Triangulum, are later Babylonian copy scribe editions and were not part of the Sumerian original. Why? Because there was no zodiac. They didn't know. The K8538 is the world's first scientific documentation on approach and terrestrial impact of a large comet on Earth. Now, you guys know I'm gonna disagree with that. I'm not saying things don't fall out of the sky. I'm not. But I am saying that those big old giant impact craters aren't impact craters. That's what I am saying. I've been saying that. Those things are formed only underwater, and they're formed under the ocean, and they're like caldera. It's when the world outgasses, and under the intense pressure of a sea, it bowls out after all that gas billows up. They've been found. There's a lot of them found. Now, but this was their idea because this is what they thought, because it was something in the sky and it created a bunch of destruction. I follow Ignatius Donnelly's concept more than I do the Randall Carlson one of huge rocks from the sky doing things on Earth. I follow Ignatius Donnelly. And Ignatius Donnelly described Typhon as appearing and raining gravel and rocks on our world. They're small. They're not giant city-sized rocks that take out continents. No, they're small. And many of the geological formations and deposits in our world didn't come from our world. They're being deposited by the Phoenix phenomenon. The impact itself is not described as a blast pressure wave, but rather as an ash and dust tempest rising out of mud sediments. Pretty interesting. So they're honest, at least they're being honest that the impact theory they have is countered by the fact that there's no blast pressure wave recorded. And this guy was pretty close to the impact area. How do we know he was close? Because he survived and he wrote about it. The K8538 tablet had high priority in Babylonian times because it provided the documented evidence that the comet emerged out of the constellation Triangulum, which the Babylonians called Mul.APIN, onto which late Babylonian astronomy and religion rested. The tablet eyewitness account shows Mul.APIN as the celestial seat of gods and celestial source of destructive meteors on Earth. The most insignificant constellation in the sky is feared by Babylon after this event because of this great destruction that came from that little bitty constellation. For this reason, the K8538 was guarded, copied, and refreshed over more than 1,500 centuries until the late Babylonian period after the observed meteor impact in 2193 BC. We'll get to that date here in a little while. The comet impact is responsible for a 300-year-long drop in global temperatures combined with lasting mega droughts, which led to the collapse of various ancient civilizations around the world. We already know in 2239 BC was the Typhon flood, and we have scientific data that we've shown in Archaix that many different scientists from multidisciplinary conclusions that the world was destroyed around 2200 BC. The tablet K8538 is the singular most difficult Babylonian tablet to decode. For this reason, only a few scientists tried the challenge over the past 150 years. According to the renowned Assyriologist Ernst Widener, it is one of the most enigmatic Babylonian documents with a unique and enormously difficult text. The tablet is on display. I've already told you about all that. I quoted that verbatim earlier. The tablet is a masterwork of compressing an enormous amount of data into a small tablet. I covered that. There are 7 dots closely marked, 7 stars, unmistakably the 7 sisters, the Pleiades. The observer placed them into a triangle. These are just illustrations of the actual text. Here's how they deciphered all the material. I got more of those. Shown is the comet flight line originating in Triangulum, Mul.APIN. and moving directly into the Pleiades. Observations for those 8 days, the impact was the 8th day, or the destruction was the 8th day. Observations for those eight days show that the flying celestial object itself is getting larger and shining stronger in its approach. Here's more illustrations of like this right here. Here's the cuneiform. Here's the Sumerian cuneiform. This is what it translates to. More pictures. Cuneiform up here. This is what it translates to. That's a constellation you're looking at right there. Orion. The disc has eight pi sections. On the left of the triangulation mark, it says B401401, which means har, which translates to fine milled dust and ash. Pay attention. Dust and ash is the result of this cataclysm. This double entry in Sumerian signifies a reinforcement of the dust sign. It's like saying dust, dust, but to them, it means a whole lot of dust. At the right hand of the trigonometrical mark, the line continues with B532, 532, 532, 532, 532. In Sumerian, doing that a whole bunch of times literally translates to a lot. So we're talking about they reinforced it twice, that this object from the sky brought a F-load of dirt that was deposited on the world. Dirt and dust. This isn't ordinary dust, because 2 times dust was magnified on the deal. This is a lot of, it's mega dust. That's a good one. Thank you, Jackie. It's mega dust. The sky is getting dark. The visible sky darkens in daytime by the dust plume. Man, some of you are seeing the picture. So more information about the sky darkening can be taken from other Sumerian lament literature from the impact time. The daytime was wiped out. Heaven was darkened. It was covered by a shadow. The mountains roared. Dust passed over the mountains. In Iridug, where bright daylight used to shine, the day darkened. What does all that sound like? I don't have to say it. I'm not going to say it. Here's another part of the tablet, another pi wedges. The tablet documents the comet impact during daytime, noon of the 21st day. The impact flashlight is placed as major event into the center. After the impact, the sky darkened. Ash and dust plumes elevated over the impact site, and the plume propagated in the sky toward the north. Remember, we keep emphasizing this came out of the north. Remember this. In a declination angle of 40 degrees to the visible horizon line. What? What ecliptic is that? That's not our ecliptic. What ecliptic is that? So the dust clouds were visible for 7 hours until the night set in. So that means the dust cloud continued at night too. They just couldn't see it. Now, you have to understand, they admit in the scientific article that 40% of the disc is unreadable. So they built this narrative based off a comet impact, because they can't imagine, as scientists, uniformitarians, they can't imagine it being any other thing. But in Archaix, we already know what it is. We can remove all the embellishments, because nowhere on that tablet does it say comet hit the world, a comet impact. This is the interpretation of scientists who are uniformitarian trained. And to them, anything falling out of the sky is a bolide. To them, anything falling out of the sky must be meteoritic or a comet. So, but as we go on, you'll see it's not what happened. The major observation is placed into the picture center on what happens to be the very distant location. It is reported in the center as B548, burning. So a fiery red hot fire glowing in the night in a recognizable shape of, as reported on the bottom horizontal line, B2929, several branching tree-like patterns glowing in the distant dark. There's no way for them to determine how far it was based off this disk. They don't know. What they did is they cross-referenced the information on this disk, and they asked geologists, hey, do you have any impact craters that happened anywhere near the Mesopotamia area? I said, oh, yeah, we do. We have this one right here. It's 3.4 kilometers across. And that's what they went with. And this is why their data was corrupted. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. So we have the author of the disc, eyewitness, says that a great destruction descended for seven to 8 days out of Mul.APIN. And when it arrived, it brought an extraordinary amount of dust that blackened the sun, covered the sky, and yet through all this dust could be seen red burning and more blacker clouds on the far distant horizon. This is what the guy's describing. The K8538 observations describe impact conditions of the bolide into abyssal, check it out, sedimentary mud releasing the impact energy via dust, ash, and vapor plumes, rising from deep out of the shallow Persian Gulf estuary, constantly being fed by renewed inflowing salty Gulf waters, producing vapor columns, elevating sedimentation mud for more than 24 hours into the air. This is all speculation. None of this is described on the disc. It's all speculation. The reason they had to go into this detail is because they know. I'm going to show you the scientific material. They know that a crater that is 3.4 kilometers in diameter would be extremely destructive for the area of impact. But the object itself would have been so small that 100 miles away, everybody would have been surviving just fine. And it can't explain. It can't. The size of that crater means the bolide would have been very small. And it can't account for a 300-year dark age. It can't account for worldwide temperature plummeting. It can't account for everything else, a multidisciplinary approach to the 22nd century BC whole worldwide reset. They've documented, because they've documented a lot about 2200 BC and how the whole world died. And that little rock that creates a crater 3.4 kilometers across would have never been able to do the whole fallout destruction. Would have never done it. So they added this in here because they know this. And they're trying to paint a picture that, oh, well, the rock didn't hit basement rock. It didn't hit the land anywhere. It hit a muddy area. And that's where all that dust and mud came from. Because when it hit that muddy area, it softened the impact. And it allowed people less than 100 miles away to visually see it and record it on a disc. And yet it's the object that reset the whole world. Do you see the problem here? Their interpretation of what happened goes totally against the scientific data that shows that at that time in here period, the whole world did die. It did, but it couldn't have been that crater, couldn't have been that bolide. So anyway, You just got to read through the BS, guys. They're doing their best, but it's uniformitarian. They are trained to think in uniformitarian principles. So they're thinking it has to be a comet or an asteroid. It has to be a comet because it was observed coming, and the destruction happened, so it must have landed on our world. They just don't understand. They have no idea what the historical record says. The Phoenix does. So, all right, we'll get to that in a minute. Here's more pictures showing the constellations. Very precise information on this tablet. Even the scientists were impressed. The Mul.APIN cult and the origin of constellations. Doesn't it blow your mind? I haven't even shown you the Phoenix connections yet. I haven't even started them yet. But doesn't it blow your mind to even entertain the idea that the Phoenix phenomenon is the origin of worldwide astronomical systems? That the whole reason ancient astronomies were even founded and developed was to watch for that red bastard in the sky when it appeared because it always reset us? Does that blow your mind? Because that's exactly what this artifact is showing. So you'll see it as this presentation continues. This is Near Eastern scholarship telling us that the Mul.APIN cult, which is the origin of Babylonian astronomy and Babylonian religion, literally began from an event they dated 2193 BC of an object that appeared in the sky that blanketed our world in so much soil materials that it caused a 300-year-old dark age. That's the tablet. Showing you the location of Mul.APIN, the location of Mul.APIN on the tablet. I'll show it to you in the sky here in a minute. They tried to pinpoint as exactly as possible God's seat in the sky, from where comets, messengers, and envoys emanate. Why would they call? Thank you, Third Space. Love you, man. Why would they call the origin of all the destructions in our world as God's throne? That little bitty insignificant constellation is God's throne, and yet it is the origin of these massive destructions that happen to our world, and it is seated in the sides of the north, in the northern heavens, way above the ecliptic. What's going on? Comets were the punishing envoys of God. His almightiness manifests itself in that nobody on earth is capable to withhold God's envoyed comets and escape God's punishment. They're still going with the comet interpretation. Triangulum was the seat of God. The question remains, from which century on? Bradley Schaeffer determined that all 600 BC Mul.APIN tablets were already transcripts. He traced the Mul.APIN cult back to 1370 BC. That's interesting, but it's also an approximate. We know that in 1273 BC, which is really close, 1273 BC was a particularly bad Phoenix appearance over the Near East. It may not have affected the Americas, but it was over the Near East. They even say it's plus or minus 100 years. So it's a dead ringer for 1273 BC. The tablet copy scribe improved the triangulum image by fattening it to produce a recognizable triangle or plow, Apin impression for his audience. Please remember you saw this. Apin, plow, coming out of the northern heavens. This is the key here that this artifact preserves. That the plow in ancient Sumerian came out of the throne of God to reset the world, to revitalize the world with soil materials and all that, and it's called Apin in Sumerian. So important to the later Babylonians that they didn't change the logogram. It's still the same. It's left untranslated in the text. Orion is called the faithful shepherd in the sky. There are no planets for computer calculations mentioned on the tablet. Nothing about planetary astronomy on the Mul.APIN tablet. On the K8 tablet, the disk that we're talking about right now. We know that the destructive cosmic comet impact in Mesopotamia occurred in 2193 BC, which is confirmed in cuneiform historical witness accounts as well as the geological exploration results. I agree with all that. The only mistake they made was associating what was recorded on this artifact with a local crater about 100 kilometers away that has a diameter of 3.4 kilometers, which is nowhere near large enough to do anything close to starting a 300-year dark age for the entire world. It would have never been big enough. It would have been a local destruction only. And by local, it would have completely vaporized all of Mesopotamia area. That dude wouldn't have been able to even record this and write it all down. We can throw impact out the window because the impact itself isn't even on the disk. This is creative license by uniformitarian scientists who are just trying to understand the text they're translating. That's it. I tell you guys all the time, uniformitarianism is a box. It was specifically designed to train the mind to form certain conclusions and to not look for evidence elsewhere. If you want perfect examples of uniformitarian thinking, Randall Carlson's the best. If you really want to see someone who is absolutely brainwashed into a paradigm, just watch Randall Carlson. He's going to give it to you every single day. It's almost as if he's reading from high school textbooks. It is so boring. But you can follow him and you'll get tired of that drivel after a while, because uniformitarian explanations for our history and our world only create more questions. They don't answer anything. Yeah, man, it's so bizarre. So bizarre these people are still on it, man. So, all right, followed by ash plume elevation, which darkened the day. Hot burning ash columns lit the sky at night. The comet crashed in a densely populated area, producing an impact crater of 3.4 kilometers in diameter. This is all supposition. They're trying to wrap their minds around what they're reading. The impact terminated the Sumerian society for an entire generation. No historical activity, records on commerce, trade, building, agriculture, government, or military activities, etc. exist for the period of 2193 to 2157 BC. Not because none are preserved, but because none were made by scribes. Only city destruction laments are preserved. From 2157 BC on, Sumerian society resumed on a small scale on the Euphrates River, in the town of Gursu under Urbaba and Judea of Lagash, followed by the Third Dynasty period in 2112 BC. The fact that there are no tablet records for Sumerian society of this devastation period, 2193 through 2157, is to be seen in comparative relation to extensive tablet collections made and preserved before and after this devastation time span. Listen, I can take the exact same facts that they just asserted about there's no records were ever developed during this period. I can take those same facts using just backdating the entire event to where it's supposed to go. It's supposed to go 46 years into the past. How do I know? Because that's 2239 BC. It is the Typhon destruction. It is the beginning of a 300-year dark age all over the world. It is the beginning of the second Egyptian intermediate period. They're very clever, those Egyptologists. They don't want to admit that their civilization has suffered the same resets as other civilizations. They don't want to admit any of that. So what do they call them? They call it the first Egyptian intermediate period, the second Egyptian intermediate period, and the third Egyptian intermediate period. All three intermediate periods line up on Phoenix phenomenon dates. Every single one of them were because the entire world was reset, Egypt included. Every fact that they mentioned right here fits perfectly if we just backdate 46 years from your 2193 BC date for the destruction that came out of the plow. Mul.APIN backdated 46 years to 2239 BC, and everything you said right here still remains true. There were no records, and it's not that we don't have records from before, and it's not like we don't have records after the 300 years, but we sure as hell don't have any from 2239 BC to about 2000 BC because nobody was making them. They were just trying to survive. Global temperature drops and mega droughts on Earth follow as standard consequences, being abrupt, high magnitude, and century-long events. A 300-year mega drought and a sharp drop in temperatures from 2193 BC after the Sumerian impact is well documented for the Belt, Spain, Mediterranean, Egypt, West Asia regions. It's the whole world. It's the whole world, guys. And they're just 46 years off. It's 2239 BC, and all this remains true. The problem that these guys have, and the reason other scientists aren't really taking them seriously, is because you added that crater, which is 3.4 kilometers across, and it's nowhere near large enough to do what other geologists and historians and archaeologists and scientists already know is true. And it's true that there's a 300-year period where the world was virtually emptied and destroyed. So they're wrestling between two data sets, trying to fit them together, and you can't. They have one series correct. The other series is force fit from uniformitarian thinking. The information is adequate to reconstruct the detailed comet advance and the impact process sequence. The position of the astronomical tower was at a 31-degree latitude and at a distance of about 60 miles from the cosmic impact site. Do you see the problem with that? Witnessing the impact flashing light in the sky, followed by elevation of fiercely glowing ash plumes. If the survivor recorded the event like we know he did, because we have the Babylonian K8 tablet in room 55 of the British Museum right now. If he survived an impact event that reset the world for 300 years, he sure as hell couldn't have been within 60 miles of it. There's no way. The math would never add up. There's no way. The K8538 observation tablet was made by an unknown alert Sumerian astronomer who sensed the historical significance of the event on his astronomical lookout tower and decided to document it. Again, they're probably right, but it's also embellishment. How do we know it's embellishment? Because none of that's on the tablet. So they are extrapolating. All I'm showing you is the tablet is recording a real event. So let's break it down, what the tablet's really telling us. Check my chat before we go into the next phase. Oh, these are gonna, and we're gonna hit some out of the park. We're gonna hit them out of the park in this video. All right. Okay, let's see here. Oh, I'm gonna share my screen again because we got a whole nother, or let me look at my see if there's some things I need to share with on the visuals. Okay. So just as a reminder to the community, the subject matter is this artifact. This is the subject matter. This is what we're talking about right here. All right. Now, share my screen. Go in here. Turn this on quick. Yeah, man. I'm wagging my tail. I'm so excited to show you some of this stuff. We just got to get through this scientific stuff real quick because this, you have to understand, there's no way this could have been an impact. All right. So, scholars built an impact narrative from the scant facts. Whether an impact occurred or not doesn't even really matter. The dating and description are clearly of a Phoenix event. The problem with the impact theory for 2193 BC is that it caused more problems than it solves, similar to the Younger Dryas impact theory, which is now completely ludicrous. The authors built their impact theory based off of a nearby crater 3.44 kilometers in diameter. A meteorite impact that leaves a 3.4 kilometer diameter crater on Earth would be locally devastating, not hemispheric, not worldwide. The impact energy would be equivalent to about 100 to 200 megatons of TNT, far exceeding the largest nuclear bomb ever tested. And ejecta, the debris, would be thrown out, blanketing the surrounding area with a layer of rock fragments up to several meters thick within 10 to 20 kilometers, and finer dust spreading hundreds of kilometers, potentially causing fires and burying landscapes. A massive fireball would form, radiating intense heat that could ignite fires and cause third-degree burns up to 10 to 15 kilometers away. The impact would trigger an earthquake of magnitude 6 to 7 on a magnitude of 6 to 7 on the Richter scale, felt hundreds of kilometers away, potentially causing landslides and structural damage to nearby regions. Dust and soot lofted into the atmosphere could cause temporary regional cooling and reduce sunlight for weeks to months, affecting local agriculture, but not enough for worldwide impact winter or mass extinction. The overall catastrophe level would be regional, capable of destroying a large city or small country-sized area, thousands of square kilometers, with potential fatalities in the hundreds of thousands to millions if it hit a densely populated area or urban zone. However, if it lands in a remote area, ocean, or desert, human impact could be minimal. Unlike kilometer-scale asteroids, this impact would not threaten human civilization as a whole or lead to widespread extinction events. Problem: If it was an impact, it was not sufficient to change worldwide weather systems, create a mini ice age. It was local destruction only, but scientific data all over the world does show that a 300-year period of ruin and cold started in 2200 BC, and lasted until 1900 BC. This was a major intermediate period for Egypt as well, meaning no records, no development, no history. Therefore, the Mul.APIN tablet is perfectly describing a destructive event, its origin and effects, but allusions to impact are creative interpretation. It could not have been too bad if an eyewitness so perfectly recorded it and survived to do so. So, having said that, what you can do for yourself to verify that what I just told you is true, you can go to Grok AI and you can give it specific instructions and say, please go through all the relevant, up-to-date scientific material and answer for me if a crater 3.4 kilometers across could have been the result of an object that plummeted the world into a 300-year cooling period and dark age and depopulated the world. That's the answer Grok gave me. You can do the same thing. This is the answer Grok gave. Basically, hell no. All right. So now we've covered the artifact. We have covered the intro on Mul.APIN, Babylonian astronomy. We've covered basically the scientific paper of these two scholars on the deciphering of that. But we're left with triangulum being called Mul.APIN. Mul.APIN is a most insignificant. It's just 3 stars. It's a triangle. It's insignificant until at one time in Sumerian times, something came out of it and completely destroyed their world to where their descendants turned it into a priority, which became astronomy and religion, and then built off it and built up a whole throne of God, anger of God and throne of God ideology based off the fact that was a throne. And it came from in between the sacrificial maiden Andromeda and Perseus the destroyer. So this is where we get to the Archaix research. This is Archaix veterans. You're going to see some new stuff here. This is where we put all this together because it's called the Apin. It's called the Mul.APIN. It's called the plow. It came from the throne of God. It came from, on the celestial sphere, it came out of the sides of the north. These are the facts we're left with. It brought red mud. It brought red burning fiery dirt and dust and blanketed the world. These are the facts that we've been given from this artifact. So the Apin is the source of destruction. The disc reads that the Apin is the source for destructions on Earth. The authors admit that the date of the event is not on the disc, but they date it according to scientific evidence that approximately 2195 BC, there was a vast destruction event in Mesopotamia. This is actually very close to the date for the Typhon flood of Noah caused by the Phoenix in 2239 BC. As we have seen in the Ignatius Donnelly's Ragnarok, Age of Fire and Gravel, the actual collapse of a vapor canopy came from this object. The flooding wasn't worldwide, but it was experienced all over the world, meaning the whole world didn't flood, but there was flooding everywhere. And the main thing that rained from the sky was gravel and dust. As shown in Archaix before and later in this presentation, Apin is a known reference for the Phoenix. The tablet describes sky darkening, the fall of ash and debris from the sky, and rain of dirt and mud and a red sky, a destruction so complete that Babylonian astronomers named their entire science of observing the heavens after the place in the sky where the destruction came from. Mul, the stars, Apin, plow. The event is responsible for a 300-year mega drought and worldwide drop in temperature. Here are the facts. A major destructive event occurred about 2193 BC. B, origin of destruction came from the plow constellation, Mul.APIN. C, Mul.APIN is in the northern heavens. D, the event was a rain of dirt, mud, ash, darkening of the sky, burning, storms, and civilization destroyed. E, the event is origin of Babylonian astronomy, cult of Mul.APIN. Such a series of facts, if true, must be corroborated elsewhere. Remember, what is one of the Archaix tenets? If something is true, you're going to see it from multiple different vantage points. So we already know that the Phoenix caused the 2239 BC Typhon flood destruction. How do we know? Because we have published books and data sets and multiple videos that cover this that anybody can see for free. We know that the Phoenix buries civilizations in red dust, red mud, and red rains, and resets the human race. And in ancient times, sometimes the Phoenix was said to bring cinnamon to the skies. This darkening of the sun, and it is a storm bringer, hence Typhon being the origin of typhoon. But let's look deeper at the mystery of Mul.APIN. Apin as descriptor of Phoenix in Old Babylonia. A book full of academic findings in 1900 titled The Reports of Magicians and Astrologers of Babylon and Nineveh reads, when Apin reaches the path of the sun, there will be a famine of cattle. There will be want. When a planet and Apin stands facing one another, there will be an invasion of the enemy. So the Apin was an event in the sky that when juxtaposed to other things, it was used as like in the omen texts. This is the translation of a cuneiform text. So translators are confused, some thinking that Apin is a reference to the planet Mars, because the descriptions of Apin in the cuneiform Babylonian text are of a red object, and Mars is red. But in the same text, the planet Mars is affirmatively identified by them as Lala, or Lale, or Lula. So this is in the reports of the magicians and astrologers of Babylon and Nineveh. So it's other scholars that point out that Apin can't be Mars. We already know what Mars is. It's Lula. The confusion in the 19th century among scholars is equally fascinating because the tablets have explanatory notes from Babylonian scribes. These are footnotes by scribes made thousands of years ago, not by scholars today. And in those footnotes, even the scribes are admitting to the confusion as to what the hell the Apin was. Zechariah Sitchin wrote that Mul.APIN is an astronomical document involving all 360 degrees of the heavens, mentioning planets, mentioning stars, and a celestial body called Apin. The identity of this Apin as an independent of its origin, the plow or triangulum on the northern heavens, is better found in ancient Egypt. Remarkably, both early Babylonia and Egypt had originally stellar calendars and divided the celestial sphere into 36 sections. Babylon watched Venus and Egypt watched Sirius. What we have with this section here, Apin as a descriptor of Phoenix in Old Babylonia, is an admission by Babylonian scribes that the Apin object was independent of the plow sign. It was an actual object that came from Mul.APIN, but by itself it was just called the Apin. This is what's described by the scribal footnotes. They're confused themselves. But if we're going to see proof of this, we're going to have to look beyond Babylonia. So let's look and see what the Egyptians said about this object. So we have Pen god as descriptor of Phoenix in Egypt. So Heliopolis was the city of the sun, a metropolis of learning with universities and libraries known to Greece, Anatolia, Ionia, Crete, Phoenicia, Canaan, Syria, Mesopotamia, Rome, and India. In this city of the sun, in Egypt, at an old temple, was located the mansion of the Phoenix, which housed the pyramidion called the Bin, where astronomer priests taught the Heliopolitan concept of reoccurring cycles of time connected to the archaic Bennu bird. Remember this word, Bennu bird. This is ancient Egyptian. The purple-plumed phoenix of Greek tradition, according to Andrew Collins in The Gods of Eden. Not to be confused with William Brambley's Gods of Eden. Two different books, two different authors. I mentioned William Brambley a lot. The Heliopolitan cosmology of Egypt, as revealed in Edfu reliefs, held that before the appearance of the Neteru, the gods, the Pen god appeared in some kind of violent conflict which brought to close the first period of creation at Zeptepi, as the pre-flood world. An enemy appeared in the form of a serpent, a dragon, known as the Great Leaping One. As a consequence of this mass destruction, the first inhabitants all die, and darkness returns to the world. The Pen god would be the same as the Apin. Egyptian tradition provides no date, but the Pen god is the same as the Fiend deity or the Phoenix, also called Typhon or Typhon. It brings death and decay, and the earth vanishes into the watery none of chaos and perpetual dark. It is a flood. The Pen god is also called the Falcon and the Winged One. The winged disc of the Near East being the greatest symbol for Phoenix and the most widely misinterpreted symbol ever. Throughout thousands of official translations and reference books in hundreds of languages for the last 3 centuries, all so-called authorities claim the winged disc, seen so prolifically throughout the reliefs and art of the ancient world, was simply a symbol for the sun, an absolute lie. Sitchin thought it was a symbol for Nibiru because it was a red disc with wings. So the Pen god is the Bennu bird. The Bennu bird was celestial, and in its appearance signaled the death of the first time, Zeptepi, the golden age of the gods, and the commencement of a new epic. This refers clearly to the Phoenix cycle, the Phoenix closing one age to begin another. Andrew Collins wrote that each time the Bennu bird was seen to return over Heliopolis, it marked the end of an eon and the commencement of the next. Robert Temple, in his book, The Sirius Mystery, explains that the Egyptians believed that the disappearances and appearances of the divine Bennu bird were linked to violent cosmic cycles and to the destruction and rebirth of world ages. It's the Phoenix cycle of 552 years that we've talked about so much. The Pen god could be the Egyptian word Bapin, an obscure deity meaning the ram, that was dreaded and yet signified spiritual transition. A ram and a plow both impact surfaces. The Pen god, or Bapin, are found on Greek-era Egyptian monuments at Edfu and the Book of the Night. There is some evidence that the Greek god Pan may have derived from Pen. Pan is known as the god of shepherds and flocks, metaphorically, humans being the sheep. He had ram's horns, and his name is said to be the original word for panic. There appears here an etymological link between panic and phoenix. Herodotus wrote that according to Egyptian chronology, Pan was the most ancient of the gods. But according to the version in which Pan was the son of Hermes and Penelope, he was born only 800 years before Herodotus. So the Egyptians had their versions and the Greeks had theirs. Though Pan is a Greek deity, there is an old legend that states that when Typhon, the phoenix, attacked in the reign of the Titans, Pan escaped by leaping into the Nile River in Egypt, as reported by Hyginus in Poetic Astronomy. Pan means all. And the ancient expression, the great god Pan is dead, came to mean that all evil had been destroyed. In this sense, Pan becomes Panics, Phoenix. So we're talking about the ancient Babylonian and Egyptian origin of the pin god, the Apin. So concerning this connection between Apin, the pin god, Pan, and the Bennu bird, which are all representative of the phoenix, we need to look at this material. I have another file here. There we go. First time. All right. The first time. So we have all these associations that we're literally being told that the phoenix caused two things. It was the death of the original first word, Adam and Eve, the paradise. It was a symbol for the first time, the creation event. And also the Typhon flood, the great flood of Noah. The phoenix is associated in ancient times as destroying the world twice. And this is really compelling. Let's look at this book from the 1700s. Stop that screen. Uh-oh. Oh, crap. Jason's going to be showing us old books. Oh, crap. What's up with that guy? I always wanted to show old books. So this guy publishes this book called The Phoenix in 1781. I've showed this to you many times on my channel. I got some awesome material on this book. I got a whole video on this book. But from 1781, he publishes a thesis on the phoenix. And this is what he writes in here concerning what the phoenix was known in the ancient world. We just saw that the Apin and the pin god are both responsible for destroying a world before the world was destroyed at the Great Flood. Two massive destructions and resets in the ancient world. Look what this guy says. He says, my design in the following essay is to show that a comet has been, remember, he's also just using the frames of reference known to them at the day, that a comet has been the cause of two grand catastrophes that have happened to this our earth for the punishment of its inhabitants at the fall, Adam and Eve, and at the deluge, 1,656 years later. Which comet, it is my intention to prove, as far as I am able, is the real phoenix of the ancients. Uh-oh, this is from 1781. That upon man's transgression, the change took place, of which I believe a comet was the cause. Before I quit the subject entirely, I shall endeavor to show the probability there is of tracing the comet from the fall to the deluge, 1,656 years apart. 3895 BC, Adam and Eve reset. Genesis is not a creation story, it is a reset story. The flood of Noah is also a reset story, and the pre-flood world was 1656 years apart. He's saying it's the phoenix. I agree, because the phoenix cycle is 552 years. And 1656 years of the Genesis narrative is exactly 552 plus 552 plus 552 for 1656 years, which is the duration of time between 3895 BC and 2239 BC Typhon flood event. He says here, As Noah and his family would see the comet before they entered the ark, they would, of course, make it known to their posterity after the flood. And also, what was the cause? I have before said that the comet which occasioned the change at the fall would likewise occasion the deluge. So, Mr. Whiston says that Hevelius, in his Comatographia, bears testimony of several ancient authors who speak of the direful effects of a comet that appeared in the reign of Typhon, that is, at the deluge, or immediately thereafter, before it. Nay, he says further that in ancient books and records there are accounts of a comet's passing by at the deluge. They associated it, they associated Phoenix, because that's what he's saying, it did all this, to the deluge and to Typhon. Amongst the many things delivered by Noah, I believe the Phoenix to be one of them, and I agree. By saying Noah, I agree that the survivors did pass on that knowledge. I got to share my screen again. All right, so here's a totally different book. Myth of the Phoenix, totally different book, but this isn't anything from that book. Here it is. In Myth of the Phoenix, right here we have both the Bennu and the Phoenix functioned as symbols of the events and conditions belonging to the beginning of the world. Thank you, Myth of the Phoenix. Let's go back to here now. The Phoenix appears causing volcanic resurfacing, continental quakes, oceans slipping from their basins, whole colonies of human survivors from the world before now erased. 3895 BC reset begins. The Genesis story making Phoenix as a fiery revolving blade that ends Eden. 6,000-year countdown till the next reset begins. Great Pyramid of Giza preserves 3895 year BC period till the calendar change. Archaix veterans already know all this stuff. And when it says 6,000-year countdown, the world is not 6,000 years old. But these world-destroying pole shift cataclysms that switch oceans from their basins through subsidence and upheavals is a 6,000-year cycle. There are many destructions between that, but none of them are like this, like what happened with the Adam and Eve Genesis reset. That was totally systemic. And the story conveys Adam and Eve were naked in the garden because what's really being conveyed is that they had lost their entire infrastructure, even the ability to make clothes. In 1945, among the Egyptian Nag Hammadi texts was found an obscure writing that explains that this intruder who broke the power of the thrones was called the Phoenix and served as a witness against the archons, the lords of time, the lords of our calendars, that would continue its devastation until the final apocalypse. It is the bringer of darkness. But it has two functions. The Gnostic approach is that Phoenix actually put the archons in check, but at the same time also initiated terrestrial resets. Its function was ambiguous, but it has a material and a spiritual purpose. This is on the Origin of the World, Gnostic book of the Nag Hammadi Library. The object came from the abyss, wrought chaos among the wandering thrones. This intruder adopted its own path, unlike the other thrones, and was thereafter the bringer of destruction. This is in the Trimorphic Protenoi, Egyptian Gnostic text. It adopted its own path. This is what we're going to show you. It came out of the north. Nothing else moves like that. I'm going to show it to you in the historical record. Ancient Egyptian Heliopolitan text of Edfu reads that before the appearance of the Neteru, the gods, a great cataclysm killed all the inhabitants of the first creation when the Pin god appeared like a dragon bringing darkness. Man, you just can't make this shit up. Again, this is from Nag Hammadi Library commentary. When Sophia Zoe saw that the archons of darkness cursed her friends who were like her, she was angry. She came from the first heaven with all her power and chased the rulers from their heavens. And she cast them down into the sinful world so that they might dwell there as evil demons upon the earth. She sent a bird that was in paradise so that until the end of the age, it might spend 1,000 years in the ruler's world. The bird, a living creature endowed with soul, is called the phoenix, and it kills itself and revives itself as an image of the judgment against the rulers because they dealt unjustly with Adam and his generation until the end of the age. Here is another picture of the phoenix being an object of terror for the elite. This is what I've said on my channel multiple times. The phoenix does cause resets. The phoenix causes destructions. But every time the elite are given, just remember, I tell you all the time, it only takes 200 years to go from horse and buggy to Hadron Collider. And anytime the elite are given that 200-year period, look what happens. Look what happens. Do you own anything today? Do you? Because as far as I know, everything today is subscription based. I can't subscribe to a channel without having to also pay more money to watch certain movies. My subscriptions to cable channels aren't like they used to be because I got to pay more money to watch stuff. Yeah. Do I own property even though I've paid for it? No. Because every year I got to shit out a huge property tax. No. What do you really own? What's going on in the world today? Well, all these mega corporations, the elite, are buying up all the homes. What are they doing with them? They're letting you rent them. The rent is higher than what your mortgage would have been if you were trying to buy the home. Yeah, nothing. There's a whole list of things we can go through. Do you even own your own food no more? No. You rely on grocery stores. Yeah. The grocery stores are packing those foods with poisons. I don't want to go dark on you guys here, but I'm just saying you don't own anything. You really don't. Every single thing in our existence now is taxed, and we pay 500% more taxes now than what we paid and we rebelled against with the Boston Tea Party. That little 2% tax that we rebelled violently over and started a revolutionary war over and all that is nothing comparable to what we willingly pay today for everything. It's crazy. We don't own anything. And now AI is taking over all the creativity, all your musicians, you got to join in or you're going to get left behind. Yeah, AI is writing books. You got all kinds of published authors out there now. None of them can debate any of that shit because they don't really know their material. AI wrote all their books. So all these people making all this money on Amazon now, these people, AI is writing all that. AI is editing all that stuff. AI images are being used. If you don't get on board, you'll be left behind. The elite have created this condition. They have literally subsidized true creativity from the human family and have imported AI that now steals all of it. Yeah, copyrights don't even belong to you. You can't even invent something today and submit it to the patent office and actually get paid for it anymore. Why? Because the Fortune 500 companies now have laws in place where they get to glean the patents first. And if they like them, they just copy them. And you don't get shit. Nothing. You own nothing now. That's the way the world is right now. You really don't own shit. So it's this is the Phoenix is so necessary. I tell people all the time, what I'm telling you about is not a dark thing. You have no idea how terrible the world could be if the elite had a 400-year run. You can't even imagine what it would be like. So here's 3 pieces of evidence right here from this video that the Phoenix is a divine instrument and that it's absolutely necessary. Okay, that's that file. Get out of there. I do have some announcements at the end of this video, but I wanted to do those last. So let's continue on because, like I said, Archaix veterans, you're going to want it. You're going to want this right here. That artifact is about the Phoenix. And we're going to prove it right here. Share my screen. Just a second. All right. So, Mul.APIN out of the north. Remember how many references we saw on the disc that the destruction came out of Mul.APIN and that Mul.APIN is out of the north? Look. One of the greatest destructions of the ancient world, which started the great Mediterranean Dark Age in 1135 BC and is the origin of the Atlantis narrative, was a Phoenix event. A Babylonian tablet text dated approximately 1140 BC reads, "After 2 hours of the night had passed, a great star shone from north to south. At this exact date, the Babylonians recorded that the star object darkened the sun." This is in Chronicon. The event was 1135 BC on Phoenix's 138-year timeline. This citation is quoted in Chronicon, and the event inspired the Babylonians to write this statement, also found in cuneiform. When a star shines and its brilliance is as bright as the light of day, in its shining, it takes a tail like a scorpion. It is a fortunate omen. When there is Benu in all lands, violence will pass away. There will be justice when a great star shines from north to south. This is in the reports of the magicians and astrologers of Babylon and Nineveh by the scholars who translated text and published them in 1900. When Benu is in all the lands, when a star travels from north to south. 1140 BC is a scientific bullseye for the accurate date of 1135 BC when this happened. How do we know it was then? Because the text is from Nebuchadnezzar I, who was ruling in 1135 BC when this event occurred. This text is from an ancient Babylonian tablet that concerns Nebuchadnezzar I of Babylon, who brought ruin to Elam, or conquered Elam after it was destroyed in the cataclysm. That's why the omen text shows that when a star comes from north to south and brings Benu, you've already seen the word Benu was related to Phoenix. It's talking about dust. Brings all this Benu, cinnamon from the sky. It's a good omen. Well, it was a good omen, because the Neo-Babylonian Empire founded by Nebuchadnezzar I was because he defeated the Elamites in a war. And the Elamites are the ancestral enemies of the Babylonians. Therefore, Elam probably got messed off in whatever destructive Phoenix cataclysm that happened, and Nebuchadnezzar took it as an attack of opportunity and went over there and conquered his enemy. So to him, the sign was good. This text is from ancient Babylonian tablet that concerns Nebuchadnezzar I of Babylon, who brought ruin to Elam or conquered Elam after it was destroyed in the cataclysm. The key Babylonian word here is Benu, left untranslated in the text, meaning it is a word older than the text that preserved it. Benu. In ancient Egyptian, it's the name of the phoenix. So we have here a Phoenix event in Babylon directly connecting the darkening of the sun to the word Benu, which is the Egyptian divine bird known also as the Phoenix, an object that passes from the northern heavens southward, just as described in the Sumerian K8 538 tablet. Throughout history, the northern heavens has produced other objects that descend southward. This defies the ecliptic like a trespass, where all the planets and the sun and moon travel across the sky. So before we continue there, I'm going to show you so you can process visually the next texts I'm about to cite to you. I want you to see this picture. Stop that screen, share screen. You're gone. Okay. Oh, y'all are going to like this. So this concept that you see on the screen is the central premise to the entire Archaix chronology right here. And that calendars begin and end because objects from Nemesis down here come all the way up here to the solar system. In the original traditions, we had two suns. There's two suns in the sky, and the day star went dark. When the day star went dark, our world, which doesn't belong where it's presently located here in Seoul, our world was orbiting the Nemesis system. I understand that I'm a simulationist. I understand that I'm telling you the entire sky is simulated, but the simulated history that we have been presented is this model right here. It's added evidence that we believe that we are in some type of mathematical construct, and that we are executing sims for whatever purposes, and that's what these calendars really are. So the Nemesis system is where Earth is originally, because the Taisha's Bode law shows that we do not fit in the solar system. Mercury mathematically is exactly where it's supposed to be, and so is Venus, and so is Mars. What's the problem? I didn't mention Earth, but Earth is the third rock from the sun, right? In the heliocentric model, Earth is supposed to be the third, but it doesn't fit. I don't believe in the heliocentric model, but I'm going with the model that is presented to us, and as we see the sky and the motions of the planets and as they're documented. It is nothing but looking at a simulation from the inside. We are experiencing it. We could be looking at the inside of a Dyson shell that has a technology far superior to anything we understand, that is giving us a false image of the heavens, but that false image is this model. This model is what it's showing us. Nemesis down here is pulling on the solar system, and we see evidence of this everywhere in two different ways. One of them is that the further away a planet is from the surface of the sun, the more it's not at 90 degrees like Mercury and like Venus. Then Earth is 23.5 degree obliquity. Then Mars, and then you got the asteroid belt, and then Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune dip. They have these amazing low dips, and astrophysicists and theoretical physicists have theorized that the pull on Saturn's rings and the motion of comets, which is what this is right here, this blue disk, which is the disk around Nemesis, is the path of comets, and every astronomer knows this. I'm not making any of this up. All I'm doing is adding to it and telling you this is the origin, this is the actual ecliptic to the Nemesis binary. It's still shedding light, but because the event horizon is in collapse, that light doesn't make it to us. It folds back in the event horizon. It's like the beginning of a creation of a quasar. So here's Nemesis binary, which is a collapsed star folding in on itself, but it's far from gone. So it has the dark star, it has the Nemesis X object, it has the Phoenix still moving. It may have other objects. I know it has a bunch of comets because we see them all the time at this angle of declination toward our ecliptic. This is the angle all these comets are coming in at. So they're coming out of northern heavens. So astronomers are convinced that only cometary-sized objects can move across trans-ecliptic, but it's not true. It's not true. There's a whole bunch of objects out there. In the 1800s, Vulcan was seen multiple times and documented. It too passed from north to south. Phoenix has always passed from north to south. Nemesis X object passes from north to south. This is why it always sneaks up on us throughout thousands of years of history. And what I mean is if 90% of all worldwide civilizations have always been north of the equator, which is the historical record, if everybody's always been north on the equator or north of the equator, then you're going to see these destructions. You're going to see these destructions clearly coming. However, there's a huge problem here. The southern heavens aren't known almost at all. And all of this activity is coming out of the southern heavens, far below the ecliptic. But if you're in the northern hemisphere, you're never going to be studying the southern heavens at all anyway, or even imagine that everything that comes out of the north is really coming from the abyss. How is that possible? Because a trans-ecliptic can't be seen. Guys, Uranus and Neptune are supposed to be gas giants, and they're supposed to be gigantic planets, but guess what? They're in our system. They're in our system, but you can't see them with the naked eye. And they're on the ecliptic, like Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury, and all that. But what about Phoenix, the dark satellite, and the Nemesis X object? They're never seen until when? Right as they at perihelion. Perihelion's the only time they're seen. Right there when they're at the edge of the sun, right there about to darken the sun, pass over the surface of the sun, darken the moon, and then disappear where? Into the abyss. What is the abyss? It's southern space. Why was it called the abyss? Because it's below the known heavens. It's in the under heavens. Nobody can see down there and go because they're all on the equator or north of on the northern hemisphere. So everybody's vantage point is here on this ecliptic. They're not understanding that this ecliptic is the one with all the activity. This is the main ecliptic here. This is where Phoenix is coming in at, and it's not the Nemesis ecliptic. It's not the Nemesis ecliptic that is askance. It's us. We're out of place. Our world does not belong where it's located right now. The Nemesis ecliptic is the true original ecliptic, and Sol is on the Nemesis ecliptic. That's what's beautiful about it. It just proves that Nemesis is far larger and that our sun is insignificant compared to Nemesis because our sun is on the Nemesis ecliptic. In the month of May, the two ecliptics cross each other perfectly. Our world, Earth, passes through the month of May in two ecliptics. Again, in November, our world passes through two ecliptic planes at the same time. These are the passages, May and November. So, the Nemesis plane is easy because it's the galactic plane. It's the galactic plane. When you go outside or you look at photography and you see the Milky Way going up in the sky, that's the galactic plane. Draw a line through the Milky Way, that's the galactic plane. That's the Nemesis plane. And Nemesis is a collapsed or a frozen star called a dark star way to the south in the abyss of our space. And we are on the edge of that major disk of Nemesis. And the dark satellite, every 395.4 years, catches up to our location on that disk. Every 138 years, the Phoenix object catches up to our location on that disk. Every 792 years, the Nemesis X object catches up to our location, but it has a lag. It has a perihelion of 60 years, which is the origin of all ancient calendars, which were all predicated off the number 60 days, 60 months, 60 years. So yeah, 60 was the main base denominator in all old calendrical systems in the East and the West. And it's all because of the Nemesis X object. The Nemesis ecliptic isn't the one that's out of order because it's perfectly in line with the Milky Way. We're the ones almost upside down. Not upside down, but we're the ones almost perpendicular. So the book of Revelation becomes more understandable when you understand the concept that we're not supposed to be on the soul's plane, but we are. But while we're on soul's plane, our astronomy is very different than when we are returned to the nemesis plane. During the apocalypse, the 365-day year becomes 243 days, which is the same as Venus. It's the exact same as Venus's period right now. So Earth is almost the same size, the twin of Venus. Also, Venus is a vapor canopy world. Astronomy and what we know about the picture show in the heavens literally tells us our history. We just remove Earth from the equation, and the solar system tells us basically our whole history. What you're seeing here is the apocalypse, 7 seals, 7 trumpets, all that. Here's the abbreviated, here's when time becomes abbreviated, right here. Everything changes in 2046 because the year is no longer 365 days, it's 243, same as Venus. The day is no longer 24 hours, it now becomes 16 hours. Time is abbreviated, and in the scripture it even says, unless those days be shortened, no flesh would be saved. So it's an act of mercy. Also, it says that the dragon realizes that his time has become short and he becomes wrathful and he goes on the attack. It's almost as if it was by divine decree and instigated the dragon to do something prematurely because now it's in a rush and in a hurry. But here I drew this like 20 years ago to show this is what happens in the apocalypse. Earth is removed from the soul ecliptic, but Earth is rotating around the sun. This is the model. I'm just telling you guys, in a controlled simulation, what you're seeing in the sky is showing us this right here. It's showing this in our histories, it's showing it everywhere. Whether it's really happening in our sky isn't even the point, because it's just it's probably the inside of a Dyson shell. It is complete technological picture show. So here's the world on the nemesis. So the last 60 years till 2106 from 2046 to 2106 is abbreviated to a 40-year period, 40 being the number of trial and testing. It is abbreviated. It changes all these, but we're getting back the time we lost when the year changed from 360 days to 365.25. This event in the future tribulation of abbreviating time literally gives us back all the time we lost in 713 BC when the calendars changed. It's evening it out. And during the evening it out period, Earth for 40 years will look like this. It will continue to go around the sun, but it will stay on the nemesis plane, not on soul's plane. And this is where Earth is. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Earth. Again, this is just another depiction of this is just old illustrations of mine done many years ago showing different stuff. I haven't even read this in a long time. Let's see. Intersect between two ecliptic planes at approximately 46 degrees is located earthward between Venus and Earth, where Earth is located in May. This is an old chart. A binary system with ecliptic planes almost perpendicular explains how comet swarms and intruder planets and even strewn fields can sneak up on Earth virtually unseen, explaining orbital and axial irregularities. Earth is today responding to approach of something big. Exponentially, every year, magnetic north wanders further and further away from true north. Let's see. Our own ecliptic is not aligned with the galactic plane, but Nemesis is. Our physics models are calculated based on a single plane solar system, and all intruder objects are believed to come from the Kuiper region. Human antiquities cannot be explained on this model. This matter covered in Anunnaki homeworld. Okay, Titius Bode. Titius-Bode mathematical distribution of planetary positions from surface of the sun exhibits evidence that Earth is an intruder planet from another system. Earth's position disrupts the clear pattern of orbital belts, including asteroid belt. Earth originally orbited the dark star before its collapse. It's Nemesis. I drew a little picture of Nemesis. So cute. Look at that cute little Nemesis. Causing all these problems. Pulling on Saturn's rings, pulling on the moons of Jupiter. It's the reason why the further away a planet is from the sun, the more of its axial tilt. Hell, one of the planets rolls around the sun with its axis pointed at the sun. All right, let's see. Move on. Oh, Star Trek. Oh, yeah. Star Trek. So this Star Trek episode, this diagram of the solar system shows the north to south orbit of Phoenix on its path between Venus and Earth. Exactly what is illustrated to the right in When the Sun Darkens. This is a real Star Trek episode. They're showing Sigma Draconis. It's called Sigma Draconis system. Real interesting. This is what was shown. Now, it's supposed to be an imaginary system somewhere in the Star Trek universe, but that's our system right there. That's our system, and that's the Nemesis ecliptic, and that is either Phoenix or Nemesis X right there. What's crazy is that I was in prison when I drew this chart. Age of the Phoenix, showing where in the month of May, Phoenix transits with the Earth every 138 years in the month of May. I drew this big old circle to show a whole different ecliptic plane. So crazy. Just so crazy, man. You can't make this shit up. I say that all the time. You just can't make this shit up, man. So let's get back to our deal. What else was, let's see. I got 2239. Okay. I got a few more things to show. All this talking got me hungry. I ate a blueberry oregano shake. I know it sounds terrible. It tasted terrible, but that was my breakfast with like a smidgen of eggs. And right now I can feel, yeah, I gotta go get something to eat. So where are we at? Bennu, okay. Throughout history, the northern heavens has produced other objects that descend southward. This defies the ecliptic like a trespass, where all the planets and the sun and moon travel across the sky. You now have a visual of what these men saw. I'm going to show you. So this was recorded by Christian monks in 1117 AD, 1,000 years ago or so. A comet filled the sky coming out of the north and traveling towards the Orient. The moon was red as blood in an eclipse over Europe. That's Gods of Eden, William Brambley. In the year 1764, in the month of May, a Phoenix year on the 138-year timeline, 500,000 Europeans saw a dark object obscure 1/5 of the sun surface. And astronomer Hoffman watched in his telescope as the object passed on a north to south trajectory, passing over the ecliptic and offending all the astronomers of the day. This is in a huge book called Cataclysm that cites hundreds of scientific reports. He was a member of the Royal Astronomical Society and could not be easily ignored, though that is exactly what they did. Later, the same fate awaited Professor Barnard, an avid astronomer. In 1892, using a 36-inch Lick refractor telescope, he discovered a planet-sized object beyond Neptune that could not have been Pluto. The tiny planetoid so small that even the Hubble telescope only shows us blurred images. The scientific community met his astonishing discovery with silence, and the discovery was not made known to the public until 1906. August edition of Nature magazine, because the object he saw was far away from the ecliptic plane, and the science of the day refused to allow for planet-sized objects wandering away from the ecliptic. This is in the Rosicrucian Cosmoconception. It's a huge book. Professor Barnard saw the object 10 years before 1902. So this could have been a sighting of the Phoenix. We must remember that Uranus and Neptune are gigantic, and both are invisible, and both are inside our system. So according to the model science has given us, what he saw could have very well been the Phoenix 10 years before it got here. He didn't see it on the ecliptic. All right. I already showed the ecliptics file. So the Mul.APIN destruction came out of the north. The Babylonian star that darkened the sun came out of the northern heavens. Hoffman's object obscuring the sun came out of the north. All three on Phoenix years. Perhaps this is what the Old Testament passages are conveying in the book of Jeremiah. I will bring evil from the north and a great destruction. The lion is come from his thicket, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. He is gone forth from his place to make thy land desolate, and thy cities shall be laid waste, without an inhabitant. And it shall come to pass at that day, saith the Lord, that the heart of the king shall perish, and the heart of the princes, and the priests shall be astonished, and the prophets shall wonder. This sounds just like the sixth seal of Revelation, when the sun turns black of sackcloth of hair, and the moon turns blood red, and the stars fall like untimely figs, and a great earthquake broke the world, and the kings and the princes of the earth go hide in the mountains. The sixth seal is the Phoenix seal, the sixth sky dragon of Mother Shipton. It is the return of Fenrir to eat the moon. So I beheld the earth, and lo, it was without form and void, and the heavens, and they had no light. That's darkness. I beheld the mountains, and lo, they trembled, and all the hills moved lightly. I beheld, and lo, there was no man, and all the birds of the heavens were fled. I beheld, and lo, the fruitful place was a wilderness, and all the cities thereof were broken down at the presence of the Lord and by his fierce anger. Go and see is what John was told when the seals were being broken. And every time John says, and I went and I beheld, and lo, and behold, and lo, I saw. It's the same syntax being used in the Old Testament as being used in the breaking of the seals that describe the arrival of the Phoenix. For thus hath the Lord said, the whole land shall be desolate, yet will I not make a full end. For this shall the earth mourn, and the heavens above be black. Jeremiah chapter 4. So we have reviewed quatrains of Nostradamus that show us that he dated certain passages in code, and they describe the sun darkening, the moon turning to blood, massive quakes, and flooding. And of these passages dated to 2040, according to Mario Reading, a French scholar, his discovery of the date index, one of the 2040 passages reads, there will be a great troubling in the month of May. He will appear towards the north, far from the bearded star in Cancer. Here it is again, from the north. How the plow of God influenced the Mul.APIN cult. We'll get to that in a minute. What did I skip? I didn't skip anything. So we're wrapping up. We're wrapping it up. So in Sumerian tradition, the plow was associated with the god Enlil. Remember, the whole origin of Babylonian astronomy comes from Mul.APIN, the plow that sent destruction that ended the old world. So in Sumerian tradition, the plow was directly associated to the god Enlil, the same god who initiated the Great Flood, which we know was 2239 BC. This actually connects outside from the tablet. It actually connects Mul.APIN to the deluge, which was caused by the phoenix. Sumerian text reads, I am the plow, fashioned by great strength, assembled by great hands, the mighty registrar of Father Enlil. I am mankind's faithful farmer. A farmer uses a plow to break up the ground. This is also in the Sumerian. After the heavens had been turned upside down, after bitter lament had been imposed on Sumer, after, as houses were overwhelmed by the rivers, and Enlil frowned in anger upon the land, Enlil had flooded the harvest. After Enlil had acted mightily thus, Enlil did not abandon us. He flooded the harvest. The plow. This goes back to the original Archaix concepts from the beginning, where I was describing the Sumerian Arab, and that in the oldest Babylon, just like the seals video, I just did the handbags video showing you that they were buckets, and showing you what the Etana seals showed, that the origin of the buckets and what they meant, and how Etana, who is Enoch, who ascended into the sky, left behind divine information, and that the Apkallu, who were guardians of kingship, had in these buckets to be distributed among spiritual humanity. All of this was explained in a previous video when we decoded the whole handbag and supposedly the pine cone, but they're not pine cones. So they're phoenix palms. In that video and in prior presentations, I'm explaining the oldest concepts in the Near East is that God was the farmer. We are the harvest. The world is the field, and humanity is separated from good seed and bad seed. And sometimes the field goes fallow. When the field goes fallow, the farmer uses the plow to break up the ground. And in so doing, he saves that part of the harvest that needs saving and resets the rest. That's the imagery. The imagery is clear. Like I said, mankind is the harvest, wheat and weeds. When the field has become fallow, the seed corrupt, the plow of God, the Apin, phoenix, resets the field. Good seed is harvested and bad seed is destroyed by the plow breaking up the ground. Therefore, my conclusion to the video, to the presentation, but not this video, I got announcements, is that the Babylonian faith was a kind of spiritual catastrophism. And it all started. All Babylonian astronomy, Babylonian zodiacs, lunar and solar, the Venus almanacs, the lunar calendar, everything can be traced back to an event when the world was destroyed from the throne of God, Triangulum. Mul.APIN sent destruction from the north. And we know from the Archaix research, it was the Phoenix phenomenon. And it's specifically designed to reset the world to keep the archons in check. And the elite are the servants of the archons. That's my presentation, guys. That's it. Face diaper is not a bucket of chicken, man. Don't make me block you, bro. I'm so hungry right now. So my announcements. Let me get my announcements now out the way. Put this up. Who's this? Put this up. Well, I want to show you the region in space. Let me show you the triangulum area before I just totally finish that off. Okay. Not real easy to see here. This is Triangulum. This is Mul.APIN. It's only 3 stars. This is Mul.APIN right here. Triangulum. It is so insignificant in the northern heavens. Here's a much better representation. There's Triangulum right there. You can see Perseus, Andromeda, and Perseus right here. On the ecliptic way down here is Aries, but the ancients didn't know it as Aries. That's Triangulum. Yeah, man. So if I would have known all this about Mul.APIN when I did the handbag video, I would have included more data, because in those Etana seals, what do you see? You see God pretending to be a shepherd. You see sheep. There's even a plow on one of those seals. None of this was known to me when I did that original. I was only researching the bucket, the phoenix palm, the handbags, and that's a fantastic video. It's data packed like this one, but I didn't make the connections because I didn't even know. I knew about the K8 tablet, but I hadn't gone through these guys' material and researched it and realized what they were talking about. All right, let's see. So we're done. I think that's whole. Yep, every file. Yeah, man, I did all that in 2 hours and 30 minutes. It's good, real good. So, for right now, I kind of had a cap of 600 people for Cypher. So many people came in at the same time. We exceeded that by quite a bit. So it's done. Right now, we got more. We're saturated. When you get a lot of people in there, it takes a lot of time to catch everybody up. So, Cypher's closed right now. We're going to end up apping. We're going to end up apping all that anyway. So it's going way faster than I anticipated. So please, no more emails on Cypher. That's done for now. Also, Archaix Underground. You got several new spaces being opened up and activities, all kinds of new stuff going on with the underground. I'm wrapping up right now. I'm wrapping up my Archaix Academy, because as soon as I can get that out done, all this work is finished. It's done, and I'm free to do what I really want to do, which is just dialogue in underground, because I got so many things in underground going on. So I'm creating a space in underground, and it's going to be for Chat Tuesdays. Chat Tuesdays is going to be for everybody in the underground who wants to chat live with me in a special space. I mean, people can chat, but we're going to open. It's going to be for those who are in underground. You know what I'm talking about. You can go to a new space. It's going to be called. It'll be there tonight. It'll be called Chat Underground. And every Tuesday we're going to open up a chat with a date. And I'm going to put a picture with it, and everybody will know, okay, well, this is for Chat Tuesday. And then it'll stay open until the next Tuesday, meaning whatever we chat about, I'm going to talk, whoever's in underground that wants to talk to me, whatever, we're chatting right there every single Tuesday. I will be in there for 2 or 3 hours, answering questions, chopping it up, telling jokes, whatever you want to do. This is part of my underground community. So Chat Tuesdays, that's a thing now. You can mark your calendars for Tuesdays. This is when you have direct access to me and some of the big admins that take care of a lot of stuff. We're going to be in there doing that. So you can come in, share whatever you want to share on Chat Tuesdays, because I'm going to be, guys know I type fast. I'm going to be in there answering questions back and forth. So that post that has the whole chat thread will stay open until the next Tuesday when it locks. It locks because that chat's done with. People can always go back in there and read all the stuff, but you can't add to it no more. On the next Chat Tuesday, we open up a separate post, and it's all new chat. This is to help you guys know if you're dealing with old chats and old conversations and all that. And it's just a better way to organize things. So Chat Tuesdays is a thing. If you're in Archaix Underground, you want to talk to me directly, man, that's what we're going to do. Chat Tuesdays. That's one new space. Another new space is Errant Economics, We have too many people who are specialists in their field in things like banking, in things like silver, markets, crypto. We have a lot of people, man, that know their business. Now, we're going to have legal disclaimers in there. We're not asking you to act on anything, but we're giving a forum because too many people who want to share real priority information on the markets are doing it in spaces where those spaces aren't really designed for that. So we're going to give them their own space. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who want to see what these people have to say and share. So errant economics is going to be its own space, and we're going to move all the stuff that's been put in the wrong spaces into errant economics. And if you like, I already know that several of my Cypher members will be sharing stuff in there as well. But that's a new space, errant economics chat Tuesdays. Also, Baby Phoenix chat. We're going to open up a new space in Underground for Baby Phoenix chat. This is where it's free of embarrassment. There's no ask whatever questions you want. A lot of people don't ask because they think it's a dumb question. There are no dumb questions. We're all in different degrees in our learning. And I'm not trying to separate people from in the community, but there is a separation. There's a huge separation. And it's like the emperor in the room. We don't like to often talk about it, but what I mean is there are Archaix veterans here that know my material as good as I do. And it's a lot of material. It's true because they've been with me for so long. They've gotten they've gotten all the free PDF downloads. Some of them have ordered my books. They've watched all the presentations. They know their shit. Well, some of these Archaix veterans are going to help tutor, mentor, and answer questions for Baby Phoenixes in the Baby Phoenix chat. It's for new people coming in who are overwhelmed and don't know where to start. You're going to hear it not from me. You're going to hear it from people who went through the same thing you're going through. So, that's Baby Phoenix chat. That's three. A fourth one is and we talked about a bunch of them. I can't remember. Oh, we're starting a new writers forum. This is what we talked about when Paul Tice, my publisher, was a guest on my channel. So the new writers forum in Archaix Underground is for everyone. Anybody who wants to write articles, you want to write poetry, you want to write songs, you want to write novellas, you want to write novels, you want to write nonfiction research like I do. It doesn't matter what you want to write. The writers forum is going to be it's going to be like a bulletin board with all your sources for writer stuff all over the world where you can help you out. But it's also going to be real hands-on critiquing. This is not a place to get your feelings hurt. In the writers resources the writers forum, this is where you can volunteer to read other people's writings, or you can submit your own chapters and stories in whatever book you're writing, or if you're writing a website, whatever it is. If you have a thesis and you're not even trying to be a writer, you just have a theory and you want to submit it to others to because it's the best thing to do. Remember, guys, I spent years in prison debating. And these guys, some of them never see the light of day. All they do is read, research, and write. That's all they do. And I used to submit all my theories to these guys, and they used to try to tear me up. And I have to go back and try to fill the gaps. Yeah, this is where I got my adversarial nature when it comes to my writing and research. This is what we did in prison. Yeah, I used to write things all the time, submit it to these guys, and they would dice it up and then give it back to me, and I'd start all over. So this is what we're going to do in the writers forum, but not to that degree. In the writers forum, this is where you guys network with each other and you help each other out. You read each other's manuscripts, you offer whatever, and then we help through like a hierarchy, because there's going to be professionals, people who are in the industry. And when you have a finished material, that's when we'll actually look at it. And you have two options. If we have publishable material, we'll try to help find the right publisher. Booktree could be, for very unique books, Booktree could be viable. But even more so is that we have experts in the Archaix community, like myself. I'm not the only one who know how to publish anything professional grade on Amazon. Like Amazon Kindle publishing and Amazon paperbacks. Yeah, I got that stuff down pat. I can do that for the rest of my life. I just don't. I choose not to. But I have 10,000 pages of research and writings. I could just put all together and just publish book after book after book after book, but it's not in my nature. but some of you guys can produce some awesome stuff. You just need a little guidance from each other, a little critiquing and stuff like that. So this is a huge project. This is going to be from writing, manuscript submission, editing, checking, cross-referencing with different people, and then producing better manuscripts until you have publishable. Many people agree in the group, man, this is good. You need to do something with it. And then people in the group will help you do something with it, whatever it is. If it's finding a publisher, or if it's self-publishing, or if it's self-publishing on Amazon. Either way, this is going to get you a lot closer to your goal than just trying to wing it alone. So another space we're going to add. Cug, I hope you're listening, bro, because you inspired me. I told you, man, keep doing what you're doing. I've been trying to wrap my mind around how you and others can provide value to the Archaix community. Let me tell you what Cug does. Cug's a friend of mine. I met him on X. We've bounced messages back and forth. He's a genuine soul. Cug doesn't have a lot of traction because no one knows who he is, but he needs to. Because what Cug does is he listens to my presentations, and he goes through all my chat, all my feed on X, and he orders the books I talk about. If there's anything that I'm talking about in a video, and he's like today, I dropped a couple I dropped a couple titles out there. Cug orders those books, and then he'll choose chapters, and he'll read a whole chapter or two in a video and just throw it up on YouTube. Then pull out a different book and do it different. So we have a new space, another space that the admins and I talked about today. We're going to start errant readings. And this is where we're going to have you post your links to your readings. You're going to put what it is you're reading from, what the book is, what chapters it is, and you're going to do errant readings. And this is how we're going to get errants producing material that a lot of other errants can listen to, because they don't have time to read books. They're too busy working, but they can listen to you. And Jason's not going to read all those books. I got other things I'm doing. Well, you're not listening to Archaix, but you still want to listen to something. You've already listened to all Archaix videos. You're going to have a whole lot of material now, because Cug's been doing this for a while and he's got a lot. But once we get Cug and a few others in there doing readings, you can pick and choose what you want to listen to. These are all books that have been promoted by me, researchers promoted by me, things you need to know and hear. A lot of the Archaix source materials. Really interesting stuff. Also fiction, like, some of the fiction books I decode. So this is new, errant readings. Cug, if you're not in here right now, I don't know if you are, but later on, you'll hear this video, and I'm pretty sure people will reach out to you on X and tell you I talked about you. But this is something specifically inspired by you. So I know your material is going to fill it up first. But a lot of people are going to want the errant readings. Those people are going to want to submit to it. But also, this is a good way to blow up your channel. If you're on YouTube and you're trying to start a channel, man, this is an excellent way. Because you don't have to do massive presentations like I do. Oh man, do a 15 to 45 minute reading of a chapter or two out of a book. And if people resonate with it, they're going right back to your channel. They're going to listen to the next one. They're going to listen to every one of your drops. And Archaix Underground is going to be where you can advertise. Here it is. This is where you are. This is it. All right. So that's a writers forum, errant readings, errant economics, chat Tuesdays with me personally every Tuesday. Baby Phoenix chat. That's 5. That's 5 right there. We talked about more, but I didn't write them down. We haven't ironed that out yet. Yeah, that's it. That's all. That's all my announcements. That is all my announcements for now. Yeah, man. I'm glad to get that video out. Woo! Crack my knuckles. Yeah, man. Glad that's done. I feel good. We keep getting closer and closer to the truth, guys. So in the course, Ken, I know you're listening. Ken, I believe you're in Hungary, and you're always submitting things to me, and I don't understand them. And that's cool. But you understand me a lot better than I understand you. I know you go by Hun on social media. And I know your name is Ken. And sometimes I've even seen you post as Ken Hun. But listen, you asked me about the Sothic cycle. and I looked it up for you. I have notes on the Sothic cycle, and I told you I was going to include that data in this video because I thought there was an end. But the more I went through the Egyptian Sothic cycle, which is another calendar, and the more I started pulling all the Phoenix data out and looking at it, it's too much. I filled a whole file up. So you have inspired another video called the Archaix Sothic Cycle Decode, because it's enough data for a video all itself. And I'm going to show you the origin of the Sothic cycle, which is one of the most mysterious and debated calendrical systems of Egypt. There's more misinformation about the Sothic cycle than you would believe. But when I show you what I show you, it's all going to click. It's like, oh, wow, it was so simple. So simple. So Ken Hun, you inspired that, but y'all have a video coming pretty soon where I'm going to show you charts. I'm going to show you source materials. I'm going to show you exactly what the Sothic cycle was and why there's so much misunderstanding about it. Yeah, man. I think that's about it. I'm getting hungry. Getting super hungry. I heard this beautiful weather I'm experiencing right now for the last 3 days. It's been beautiful. I heard it's going to get cold again. So I got to get ready. Go check all my propane tanks and put noodles on my plumbing and stuff. But yeah, that's Archaix Underground. It's going down. We got big changes. And as soon as I'm done with Archaix Academy, which I'm working on every day, guys, as soon as I'm done with Archaix Academy, I'll be spending most of my time in the underground. The underground was specifically built for me to stay in there and post all my stuff in there and do all that kind of stuff. That's what it was for. So that's what we got going on. That's what we got going on. All right. So Jeffrey Bailey and Mr. C, Jasmine, Donna Marie Farrell, send me that email. Let's see. Face Diaper OG down there in Central America. You behave now, man. Yeah, Pamela Swan always, and Nelson Perez and the One Tucks, Justin's Avatar, Riyadh Ali, gang's all here. There's Lacey. Nanny Neal. Nanny Neal, you look good with that blue wrench. I'm going through this whole list. I just know Shellcracker's going, I know that bastard passed my name up about 3 times already. Not of this world. I hope you feel better. Anyway, it's been great. It's been great, guys. But now I'm just rambling, and I'm really hungry, and that's what I do when I'm hungry. This presentation is over. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you now have a better understanding of the origin of Babylonian and, by extension, world astronomy and astronomical systems. And I may even do another independent video putting all of this together, because it all came in pieces, didn't it? It did. Going through all the zodiac information led us to the difference between lunar and solar calendars and lunar and solar zodiacs and horoscopic zodiacs, and then doing more videos led us to even more discoveries. Like, wow, man, scholarship shows these systems aren't even old. What is Graham Hancock talking about? So they're going into even deeper research. We find, damn, man, this is so crazy. All these different methods of measuring time all ended when the next Phoenix cataclysm occurred. Phoenix keeps starting and stopping calendars. So bizarre. All right. Let me go ahead and find a real good out. Maybe I should share with you a new song coming out. I heard a rumor that there's an Archaix album in the mix right now with a whole bunch of hilarious, funny songs. Now, it's just a rumor. It's just a rumor. But I have it on good authority that there may be a lot of funny songs like this one right here. Let me find this song. I don't think this one has any pictures to it. It doesn't have any pictures to it yet. Let me see here. Yeah, man. 2026 is going to be a badass year.
Ooh, Jimmy. Oh, Jimmy. thought you could hide in the sands of time. But the truth's coming down like a phoenix fire from Archaix. The hammer falls. Of the rich at you spin your web of lies, claiming Atlantis rose there under desert skies. But Plato's words are twisted in your grifter's game. 9600 BC, man, that's just lame. You run from debates like a coward in the night. Hancock's your buddy, but you both ain't right. Younger Dryas dreams all crashing down while you're chasing views in your conspiracy town. Göbekli Tepe, you lie about the stones. Pottery dates left them buried like bones. Unfinished pillars, backfilled in haste. Cataclysm hit, but you call it a waste. You get so upset when the facts come to light. Personal attacks, yeah, you're spoiling for a fight. Accusing folks of faking cancer, that's low. But Archaix is here, stealing the show. Jimmy upsetting, oh, you're burning out. Grifter in the desert, full of doubt. Chill for the masses, pushing Nazi shit. But the truth from Archaix, it's a perfect hit. Run, Jimmy, run from the debate stage. Your theories crumble in the simulated cage. Upsetting spaghetti, tangled in your lies. The world's waking up, saying goodbye. Billy Carson's crew, Randall's wild ride. You all huddle up, but there's nowhere to hide. Matt the Crow whispers, Bible draws the lines, but your star alignment's just wasting our time. David Axe echoes Sitchin's old tales. You peddle the fiction while the real data prevails. Piri Reed's map, you claim Ice Age art, but no metal plates, no ancient hearts. Sensational clicks, that's your only fuel, while Archaix drops bombs, making you look the fool. Joe Rogan's couch, you'd sell your soul to sit, but the purge is coming and you're caught in it. You get so upset when the chronos unwind, looped in the matrix, leaving you behind. Call out the cowards from Carson to Greg. Archaix is rising, cracking your egg. Jimmy upsetting, oh, you're burning out. Grifter in the desert, full of doubt. Chill for the masses, pushing Nazi shit. But the truth from Archaix, it's a perfect hit. Run, Jimmy, run from the debate stage. Your theories crumble in the simulated cage. Upsetting spaghetti, tangled in your lies. The world's waking up, saying goodbye. Oh, Jimmy, why'd you have to go so low? Faking the facts, stealing the show. From the Sphinx's gaze to the zodiac's lie, your empire's falling, no alibi. Archaix roars with the napalm truth, burning your bridges, exposing the proof. No more